In the user interface chapter, you'll learn how to develop user interface displays and have your Java app code interact with display elements. The user interface is an area of heavy intersection between app design and app development. The choices made for user interface elements have as much to do with how the app will look as how it performs. In larger app development projects, a separate design team will often work in parallel with the code development team. And Google has created a separate, large, and well-done section of the developer's website dedicated to design. We've already looked at portions of the design pages. The home page for this section is shown here, and since this course is focused on code development, we won't go through the design guide in detail. However, we will refer to it as we discuss various user interface code development topics. In addition to the design guide, Google includes a graphical layout editor with the Android Eclipse tools. Let's take a look at it using our first app. We'll open the layout, and by clicking on the Graphic Layout tab, we see a high-quality display of the screen and sets of options for adding elements to the display screen. So, for example, we could add a ratings bar. Let's expand this a bit here, make that a little bigger. And here we see the ratings bar. Click on that, pull it over into our display. And then if we wanted to, we could center it by clicking on this drop-down menu, click on Center Horizontal, and we see the ratings bar has been centered. And now if we click on the XML tab, we see the ratings bar XML has been added with the appropriate attributes. Since in this course we're focused on coding Android apps, we won't be emphasizing the graphical layout tool. I suggest you experiment with it on your own, maybe using our first app, to get a feel for the graphical layout tool set. Note that using this tool, you're only getting the XML for the screen and not the Java code to access it. However, you do get a started access. Note that in our ratings bar element, an ID has been created, rating bar 1. This ID can be used to access this element from Java code, as we saw in the lesson on accessing resources in the Resources chapter. On the Developer Tools webpage, click on the Graphical Layout Editor to the right, and you'll see a good summary of the tool's capabilities. So this is a great tool for helping design your app screen displays, and it's particularly useful if you're using non-code developers on your design team. They can focus on creating visual elements without worrying so much about the underlying code. In this chapter, we'll use the API Demos app to demonstrate a number of user interface capabilities. The Views API demos are focused on the user interface, and there are a large number of them. They account for almost half of the over 300 API demos. And the Views demos have a number of secondary and even tertiary groups. And during the user interface lessons, we'll be looking at a number of them. That's our lesson on the user interface chapter, and let's continue with the lessons.